Assalamu alaikum, everybody. How are you? I hope all of you are having a great Saturday. Today, I have a very special guest on board, Omar Farooq, and he is there to teach us all that is very relevant in this time and age. आजकल हमारी जिंदगियां live interaction से video पे चली गई हैं. All the time we're like zooming in and zooming out. So I felt the need to learn how to use camera and video properly in order to build rapport with the person that you're talking to or the teams that you're talking to. Because वही बात है कि हम लोग इस चीज को taken for granted लेते हैं, but this is not something which needs to be taken for granted. So a bit about Umar as well. Umar, he has worked as a news anchor at GEO-TV, and over there he learned something really interesting, which requires a lot of awareness and focus. And he was just telling me that when he used to sit in front of the camera in the newsroom, so he just had one earpiece in his ear. और उस एक earpiece से he had to listen to two people at the same time talking, one being the producer and the other person who was there live on call. So he had to listen to two of them, and then he had to make it all natural and make it all look natural in front of the camera, just say like you're having a normal conversation. So juggling all of this and having that state of awareness, I believe it's a skill that you learn over time. So Umar is a communications expert. He trains employees on different areas when it comes to communication, verbal cues, non-verbal cues, how to use theatrical techniques to master communication. So thank you so much for being here, Umar. It's lovely to have you.
Thanks, Aisha. It's a pleasure to be in my own house, sitting on my computer, as is the way these days for us all to communicate for work.
That's true. That's true. And it feels really strange as well. Like, as I just mentioned earlier while we were having a conversation, that although we're looking at the camera, but in our heads, we know that we're talking to a lot of people at the same time.
Yeah.
So वो दिमाग में एक conflict आ जाता है. आप एक बंदे को एक को देख रहे हो, but in your head, you know you're actually talking to a lot of people. So how do you actually manage that, especially in like live streaming sessions like this? So Umar, tell me a bit about yourself and what you do as a communications expert.
So essentially, we run a company called Talk, T-A-L-K, which focuses on getting people to be authentic when they're communicating. I think after this shift has come in the world, which I personally don't think is going to be temporary, authenticity has become highlighted because now is the time now we're being forced to reconsider how we have been living our lives, spending our money, spending our time. And now is the time for us to really, really connect to ourselves and become authentic. Now, one of the issues we've dealt with in corporates in the last 4 years is that teams are not connecting with each other. When they communicate, they're not present in the moment. And one of the major points of communicating is listening. And if you're not listening, then there's miscommunication. So as you're a trainer yourself, then you get called in to teach them active listening, to teach them listening skills. The fact is, if somebody wants to listen to you, they'll listen. If you tell somebody that one of their relatives, their close relatives is sick, they're going to listen. They're going to be like, Kya hua? Oh, main abhi aaya, right? The fact is that people don't want to do it, so they don't do it. Now, the problem is that in this new world, if we're not authentic on camera, if we're not genuinely connecting with other people, because the other person on the screen is a living, breathing human being with a soul, and it's important to transcend these digital barriers and connect with that human soul that you're communicating with. So I think it's very important for us to now, as trainers, our focus is shifted to get people functioning and communicating at their optimum, because now if communication breaks down, it will be detrimental for teams. So I think it's very important for companies to invest in that at this point.
So
to keep everything together.
That's very true, because at this point in time, when we are socially distant in like the physical sense of the word, it's become all the more important to stay more connected and more engaged than ever. So, would you share some techniques when it comes to using the camera, managing your verbal and non-verbals? How can we do it more effectively to convey a professional image and also to build engagement at the same time so that the interaction is more natural and it's more human? Rather than getting the feeling that you're talking to a robot or someone who is not real, having the beauty of the face-to-face human interaction. So, what do you have to share in this regard?
Okay, so one tip that we were just laughing over and discussing is never do this when you're on camera. Because no one wants to see this whole face up here. As in the newsroom, or if you watch any close-up shot of somebody on TV, you'll see about this much headroom. Headroom is very important. Number two, if you're going to look down, you're not going to make eye contact. Now, you're sitting to my left here. This looks, because my camera is reversed. So now if I look here, I'm not looking at the camera. I'm looking at you. It doesn't look like I'm looking into your eyes, but I am. Now, if I look at the camera, then I am looking at you. And one thing that is very important when talking to a camera and when we were being trained in the newsroom was, how many people are you talking to was the question that was asked to us. और मैंने उसका जवाब दिया कि मैं सबसे बात कर रहा हूँ क्योंकि सब देख रहे हैं. But the guy said, no, you're talking to one person. So when you're talking to one person, you're looking into their eyes. Obviously, digitally, people don't realize this, but it's so obvious that the camera is your one eye, right? So that's number one. Number two is that you want to be able, you said non-verbal cues. Now, it's very important. Communication that we teach in everyday life, communication is non-verbal. 93% of it is non-verbal. 55% is your body language, and 38% is your tone of voice, your tonality, your tempo, your pitch, everything to do with your avaz. And you raised another interesting point that people are not natural. They're not natural. They don't appear to be connecting naturally because they're not feeling natural. It sometimes feels like you're communicating with a robot because some people are camera shy. So their survival instinct kicks in. And when your survival instinct kicks in, cortisol gets released into the bloodstream. It causes stress, higher levels of alertness, and it prevents you from relaxing. So my tip to teams working from home, second tip is to please relax and overcome the mental barriers that you have erected yourself. And the third thing I'd like to say is that on camera, because you can't see my whole body, but you can see around this much, right? The most important thing to do is to practice over-the-top animated facial expressions, much like I'm doing right now. I could say the same thing looking like this. Guys, it's very important to control your body language, but there's no expression on my face. I'll say it again. Guys, it's very important to control your body language. So the effect comes from your eyebrows, your face. We teach exercises like this, again, in our sessions, and obviously we've shifted everything online. Now, these are very important skills to learn. And the most important and last point is that if you're going to communicate, you have to remember that your tonality is going to honestly reflect your state of mind and your state of emotions.
So when it comes to tonalities, what is the best way to manage it, or rather, how should it be? Should it be like it is in face-to-face communication? Should it be something different in front of the camera? What's your take on that?
So my personal opinion is that it should be exactly the same. So if Aisha, if you were sitting in front of me right now, I'd be talking to you exactly the same way. In fact, when I talk to a camera, when we do our live interviews or sessions or videos, I look into, the camera. I look into that one eye. Because I know that if I'm looking into the camera, then everybody is going to be looking into my eyes. That's because I'm naturally comfortable making eye contact with people. That's because I'm naturally comfortable being vulnerable with people, i.e., I'm open to physical and emotional attack. Now, in this case, there's no physical attack, but constructive criticism can be taken as an emotional attack. These are now deeper skills that come into communication, which is why we specialize in this, overcoming the fear of being vulnerable. These are things which apply not only in the COVID-19 days, but afterwards also. And because the problem is so apparent now for teams and organizations, now is the best time for them to get this work out of the way and have them learn this now, so that when they get back into communicating face-to-face, their communication has improved.
Agree. One thing that I am noticing right now also is that a lot of people prefer to switch off their video while they're having their team meetings. Uh, I wondered why that was
Yeah,
the
that's
case.
just creepy. I think that's just a little creepy.
That's creepy because, and apparently, since we're all new to this remote working, so
Yeah,
there is no guidelines कि camera खुला होना चाहिए, off होना चाहिए, and people do as it please. And
yeah,
most of the people they don't want to like put themselves out there. Probably a lot of them are not professionally dressed. They don't want to show that they're wearing their PJs. They're not dressed for work. Whatever the reason is, but uska end consequence ये होता है कि the team communication ends up breaking down, because if half of the people have the videos off and half of them have on, and you as a boss are communicating, so you the person, if you have your video on, then good enough, but if not, then people are likely to feel estranged just by looking at your thumbnail picture, which is also sort of unrealistic these days.
yeah,
Really edited thumbnail photo out there instead of the video. So
yeah.
I would like to ask, are there any ways in which, or some tips that you would like to give for people to become more comfortable with the camera, to get rid of their own fears, and just to be willing to put themselves out there?
I mean, one simple tip in the absence of a proper training program, one simple tip is to consciously relax your muscles in your shoulders and your neck and remain relaxed. The more relaxed you are, the more your voice will, sound authentic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's okay to be a bit fidgety while you're having a conversation. You think that's okay? Because I think sometimes we tend to feel a bit uptight as well. So
Do you ever remember the days of the landline?
yeah,
Yeah.
of course, of course.
So I don't know if you remember this, but my mother used to have a pen and a paper next to the phone, and every time she used to sit and talk on the phone, she used to scribble stuff.
Yeah,
Right?
I think we've all been through that time. Yes.
Yeah. I would advise to concentrate all of that random energy that's going in different places and focus it into your ability to train your mind to stay present in the moment. You do not want to be miscommunicating with your team at this point. You want things to be repeated several times. You should want to establish guidelines, how to talk on camera, what the SOPs are. But most importantly, I think that in answer to your question, if you want to be more relaxed in front of the camera, you have to be more relaxed in real life as well. So again, I would advise organizations to use this time, this downtime, so to speak, to tackle the root of the issue, not the symptoms of the problem. For example, currently the world cannot handle the symptoms of the coronavirus logistically. Hospitals can't handle it. There's not enough doctors, there's not enough machines, there's just not enough facilities and infrastructure. So they have to attack the root of the problem, which is kill the virus to prevent it from spreading. So companies should now attack the root of the problem and not कि जी camera पे कैसे हम ज़्यादा relax हो सकते हैं. How can we make our employees more relaxed? And it really comes down to so many deep things that we are not qualified to get into because we're specifically communication experts. But one thing I can tell you is when you're in front of the video and you're talking to somebody, 38% of your communication is your tonality, 55% is your facial expressions. 38% your tonality, you can create team cohesiveness by understanding and learning how to build rapport.
Okay.
Yeah, and tonality is one of the major ways that you can build rapport because now you and I are kind of speaking at the same speed, the same kind of volume, the same kind of flow. Imagine if I was talking like this and you ask me all these questions, and I was telling you, no, I must do this. Oh, yes. And then, you have to give this much headroom, and you have to look into the camera, and people are going to be like, isko kya ho gaya yaar? Tell him to relax. If you and I are on the same page in our communication, then it becomes a natural, conducive energy for us to be cohesive. This is a skill that can be taught. And we also have to be conscious of the camera. A lot of people, I've been having some strange, they'll do something like this, and they'll be talking to the camera.
A lot of
I'm
people
just
do
like,
it.
where are you, Oh, sorry, and then they come back. Ye to choti si cheezein hai na, but we think they're small for us because we're used to doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I've understood that people don't care about it. They're not conscious of it because they don't care about it. So I think it really comes down to caring about it, and caring, like you said just before we started, caring about the impression you're making. It's not like people are going to forget.
Management, exactly.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
I feel one point with something which is being dismissed right now is the impressions that we are making online right now with our colleagues, with the people that we know or the people that we don't know, are the impressions that we will take forward with us after that all of this ends.
Yeah.
So जब हम लोग in person मिलेंगे जाके, when we'll be there face to face with each other, when we'll have that interaction, we don't want to sort of abuse this time कि जब हम उस वक्त जाएं तो people remember that stupid stunt that we just pulled in front of the camera a few months ago. Because it is also possible कि हम अपने पिछले 30-40 साल की reputation जो हमने face to face बनाई है, हम कैमरा के सामने irresponsibly behave करके we can ruin that. And people are likely to remember that rather than the 30 years of जो भी उन्होंने एक positive impression जो आपके बारे में था उनके ज़हन में. Because this is also the time when you either build perceptions or you destroy perceptions.
And I feel as if like it's extreme. So some people are really worried about building perceptions. Some people are really not concerned about it at all. So on the other end, when you're really worried about building perceptions, you can't relax. So I would request everybody else watching the person talking that you relax so that people are not worried about what you think so much. The corporate culture has been forced to a standstill. And if companies don't restructure as much as they possibly can while focusing on saving costs for the future, then they're going to be left behind because ये दुनिया मुझे लगता है कि अब दुनिया permanently shift हो गई है.
That's true.
I feel like the culture is going to change even if it goes back to normal. I feel as if people have understood what's truly important in life, how they're going to spend their money here on out, and how they're going to spend their time. Because I don't know about you guys, but I haven't spent much money in the last month and a half, because there's nowhere to go and there's nothing to do. So,
yes. Obviously.
Yeah.
That's very true because fuel costs, shopping costs, like food delivery, हर चीज जो है वो एक साइड पे हो गई है.
Exactly.
So groceries and probably the utilities is a max that we're sort of most of us are spending right now, or subscriptions probably जिन लोगों को extra जाने का शौक है.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So our viewers, if you have any questions on this topic, because this is something I felt is the need of the hour. बहुत से लोग कैमरा बहुत बुरी तरीके से यूज कर रहे होते हैं और उनकी वीडियो देखते वक्त you're like, I don't want to watch this, let me scroll down my feed. So and anyone who goes on camera, who does a Facebook live, or who even makes a video which is natural, you probably don't want to be that person who scroll down the feed. You want the audience to stay and you want people to watch you. That's why you're there in the first place. That's why you're making the effort. So if anyone has any questions or if they would like to learn more on this topic, please feel free to comment and ask us. Meanwhile, Umar, just one last question, since I promised the audience that we'll have a short and sweet conversation. So my one last question to you is, why do you think learning confidence in front of the camera or mastering these skills is important? What's the utility?
The utility of this is that you're able to fully embrace the era of technology and the way the world is going. It could be virtual reality tomorrow. It could be anything because the technology is in place. And the utility of this is communication, and communicating clearly and effectively is the bedrock for solid business relationships as well as personal relationships. If you have a problem talking to the camera, then you're wasting all the years and hours you've put into developing yourself as a person and your potential, because आप communicate ही नहीं कर पाए कि आप कौन हैं, आप क्या कर सकते हैं. You did not step up to the challenge in the moment, not because you were not capable of it, but because you were camera shy. Really, if that's something you want to live with, fine. But I think the utility of this is definitely for you to be able to put yourself out there as much as possible and be able to, you fully allow the world to utilize your skills and allow them to understand what you can offer.
Agreed. Beautifully said. And as you mentioned, we spend a lot of time, energy, and money in building ourselves and becoming the person that we want to be.
Yeah.
And just being camera shy shouldn't be a barrier or shouldn't just come in the way of telling the world what we want to do or how or what is a skill set. So
Absolutely.
one of the questions, so we have some questions here. So I think we'll now take some of the questions.
Sure.
So someone is asking, what skills are recommended to acquire for audience engagement online?
Facial animation. And
Great.
controlling and aligning your voice with your emotions. Let yourself be animated on camera. Don't sit there like this and expect people to want to listen to you. The more animated you are, the more encapsulating you are, the more engaging you are, the more people will give you your attention. Otherwise, there's 1,000 other things competing for your attention at this point.
Very true. So from what I understand is you जैसे आपने non-verbals use कर रहे होते हैं, body language use कर रहे होते हैं, your face-to-face communication. So you're using your hands, you're using your voice, you're using your eyes.
Using my eyebrows.
So camera ke samne suddenly we don't feel the need to bring all of that into play.
Yeah, we don't. Right? We should.
And
you know, the best way to practice it. The best way to practice is in front of the mirror.
Great. वो आपका जो एक होता है ना कि आप अपने आप का जो देखते हो and then you have that fear inside your head of how am I gonna look. I think that's like the best way to like go about it. Another question that has come up is that okay, so someone is asking regarding your introductory part, and so basically people who have joined in late they just want you to summarize what you do briefly or what you have done as well.
Okay, so basically my wife and I, we run Talk, which is a corporate training communications company which assists people in becoming authentic communicators or expert communicators. And we do all of this communication training focusing on your tonality, body language, and your mindset through experiential learning programs, including theater and improvisational comedy. I am a former news anchor and musician. My wife is a graduate in masters in the world of theater and acting and all of this stuff.
And just to add something extra, he plays excellent guitar.
Thanks.
I follow his posts regularly. He knows how to do that pretty well. So any other questions? Guys, please feel free to ask if you want to learn anything about using the camera properly, or if someone feels that they don't feel comfortable for whatever reason, you can share your reasons as well. Okay, why would you like switch off your video when you're having this a video call? What comes in the way? Why don't you want to put yourself out there? So someone is asking as well how to cope when we are communicating with multiple people. So how do you manage that sort of live video conferencing?
Okay, so that's a very interesting question. When you're on stage, this is an interesting point to note that you make eye contact with a few key people in the audience. So you'll say, and then revenue was, $100 million. But as you move forward, you can see that this chart here, and then you look at somebody else, and then you look dead center and you're doing this. Camera is easier. You're just looking at the camera. So if I speak to all of you who are watching, I'm looking at one camera, but it looks like I'm talking to all of you. But note my eyebrows, note my eyes, note my cheekbones, note my smile. Everything is like exercised, fully out there, and unafraid to express what I'm trying to say. So on camera, it's very easy to engage with multiple groups of people through two things. Number one, make eye contact to the camera. And number two, listen to everybody. So the moment somebody says something, you can direct the conversation there and pause yourself and make sure that everybody gets the space they need to communicate what they need to communicate.
So from what I understand, it's very important to take that pause.
Absolutely, it's very important to listen. Yeah, and the pause is a natural consequence. कि कुछ कहने लगा, अच्छा मैं रुक जाता हूँ.
Because usually when we're having conversation face to face, especially over here, like यहाँ पे हम जब भी कोई बात करते हैं, बहुत सारे लोग एक वक्त में बात कर रहे होते हैं. That's sort of the norm. But when you try to do the same thing on camera, it becomes one big fat mess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Naturally निकल जाता है, but camera पे वो बहुत messy हो जाता है. If you're having a meeting with like 10 to 20 people out there, it gets really messy then.
Yeah, it does. And I think one of the easiest things to do for teams is to have a moderator in their group online. And that moderator has this is a training that we're offering now. How do you facilitate the smooth flow of conversation online? So if you assign, you can take turns of being the moderator and you have control over people's microphones.
Wow.
So for example, on Zoom, your screen, the border around your image becomes green when you're talking and your mic clicks and it goes back and forth like that. But I think for rowdy teams, you need a moderator. See, now this is too little headroom.
Okay.
You want to have like this much headroom. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
So all of these things are things that we are now in the process of delivering these trainings actually online. So it's easier.
It's easier.
I think it's very important for people to understand that you have to have the sense and the tameez to let people communicate. Unfortunately, in Pakistan, news channels are the worst example because everybody's speaking over each other. These are talk shows hote hain hamare yahan pe. So now seriously, it's you have to decide as a group of 15 people to communicate one by one. And if you can't, then we're offering, skills to the moderator who can make sure that everybody gets the floor when they need to say something.
Great. Thank you so much for your time, Omar. So just for our audience, Omar conducts trainings on this specific area where, so this was just a casual conversation, but he offers specific techniques in order for you to learn communication better, both face-to-face communication as well as like camera communication. So if you want to learn more about Omar's trainings and how he teaches them, and obviously he has exercises and activities planned as well, please feel free to message us, contact us, reach out to us. We're there for you, and we're there to take in your comments. Thank you, Umar, for being there, and thank you
so
for
much.
teaching us all of this. Learned a lot myself because I feel this is something which you're all learning and getting used to.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Chale. Okay, see you around.
Have a good night. Thank you so much. Take care.
Have a good night. Bye-bye. Love